All right, we're just gonna do a quick lesson on drawing some zones. Fog had a question about it. Uh, Main question: how do you define the zone high low? Um, yeah, it's dataroma.com, Walter White. Um, like that. I think that's what you're. Okay. So the answer to how do you define the high and the low? So when you think of a value area, usually what happens is you'll try to quantify like 70%. So if you have computers that automatically do it for you, like I think Toss does it, then it'll create the high and the low based off of the most volume within a trading range, where 70% of the volume takes place. Now, what I say is, it depends on who you're playing against. You can have zones within zones, right? You can have zones within zones within zones. Um, but here, let's break something down. So for PLTR, there's a couple sections we need to break down. Obviously, this is your main section right here. This is your upper levels up here. And so the most important people are always your last few. So what I want to do here is I'm going to break down from this point. I'm just going to zoom into it. And any new thoughts on Etsy? No, I still like it. Buy local, buy Etsy, buy American. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the Buy American slogans that used to happen all the time. Walmart would have Made in America written on it. Okay, so you can see that within this area, you've got this is your main zone, right? This is your lower area, right? So it's like, all right, I see those are pretty obvious, right? Well, why are the high and lows there? I mean, you could argue that it's there and here, right? That's fine. If you want to do that. There's no there's no right or wrong way about that. The rule for me is I want to know when the chart changes and the bulk of people are below you or above you. And for me, this is good enough. Right here, that's fine. Now, what you would do after that is you'd have to zoom in and be like, all right, where's point of control? Where's the major levels from the more recent data? Like if we were to remove all of this price action from back here, right, and just look from here forward, well, where's the main levels on that? Because that's much more important. I'm going to zoom into just this area and let's see. I don't know if it's going to change it much, but so now that I've zoomed into this area, what do we see? Well, okay, now what I would do here is I would put in a different colored level here just to let you know that this is right the newer DP. Um, so what this is saying to me, right, is as soon as we break over this level, if we came down and tested, I wouldn't start buying here anymore. I would lower my buys. I would be like, all right, it's time to start buying when we get closer to 85 instead of 87. Okay, understood. Now where should we go to if we bounce on this level? Well, ultimately it looks like right here, right? This zone. So I want to figure out where these people are coming from. It's obviously these guys right here, right? Nobody else is even in this. Okay. So that means as you pull to this point, that would act as support, right? So for me, the most important thing on this is to understand the high and the low of this 10-11 trading day, right? Trading days 10 and 11 here. So the point of control for these trading days in this box is going to be in between these two lines. So if you wanted to look at PLTR and say, you know what, I would love to buy a pullback, and if it comes to 87.50-ish to 88.50-ish, I would be a buyer thinking that this gap close holds, these people here, these inside days that broke up, ultimately hold. Does that make sense? And so your high low, like you're zooming into the bulk of the people. Now, can you argue that it's more? It's more. You can widen it out, sure. But what you need to be able to do is just say, you know what? If it gets under this level or comes into this level, this is where I want to be buying and or stopping out and selling. So what we have to do to set up the trade is say, hey, do I want to risk 87.65? Well, why not 87? Why not 86.75? Why not 86.27? And you can sit here and make that argument, and I'll agree with you. Yeah, that's fine. You're just using a bigger zone, right? You're using a bigger zone to try to absorb. Okay, great. What I'm doing is I'm saying, you know what? I think we get an initial bounce off this level. I'm going to keep risk tight because if you do get below these people, the odds of going down further, down to here, are much higher than they are if you're above this. So let's pretend you do break down and you do hold these levels. Well, what's going to happen? Well, ultimately, you're going to have to push back above these guys, and that's when I would get back involved in it. And there's no wrong way to do this as long as you're controlling the risk. But for me, it's like I'm going to hold this one tighter. See if this gap fill can hold. And usually what happens is you get something like this, and I can take partial of it off, and then I'll look back at it and I'll say, man, do I want to lower my risk all the way down here now that my cost basis is here? Right? I bought this, I sold for $4 or $1 or whatever it is, and then lower it by that amount, and maybe it sets up a better longer term trade. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So the most important thing to realize is, where does the chart break to you? And to me, once you start getting below the majority of the people. So here, let's look at just right here. So like we're kind of chopping around in PLTR right now. And you need to kind of break out of this box. Are these two lines, right? And sure, this is your thicker level. This is the more important level up here. And then I would say, all right, you've got a few hiccups, right? A few peeps up here that are going to cause some pullback. So now, as I'm looking at this chart and I'm thinking of setting up a trade on it, ultimately what you want to create is your if-then statements. If we break above 94, right, which is this high area, what should happen? Well, we should push to 94, 84, and 95. Ultimately, when you hit that level, it is weaker VP. Maybe you get a pullback, maybe you don't. But if you do, and it does something like this, I would be a buyer because now you're breaking out of this major zone, and you most likely the odds would be a bounce from that level, and then ultimately some type of quick consolidation for a pushback to a double top. And that's when you would be getting into this zone, right? And we would come in here and do the exact same thing, measure those out. Top right here, bottom right here. Point of control is going to be somewhere about here. And you play that zone. Okay, now let me catch up on chat. Did you mean first majority below, so it's more down, more majority, right? I think you're talking about like when the chart breaks. So here's an example of it. Let me know, Fog, if this is your question. Right now, currently on PLTR, we are trading in the value area. Would everybody agree with that? Like this is where the most VP is. We are trading within that value area. Now, when does this chart break? Well, when we get below this value area. For me, that's this bottom line here. Can you argue that this is the spot? Sure. 92. Great. That's fine. Can you argue that 92.25 spot? Great. Yeah. If 92 is that spot and you're stopping out at 92.25, well, what happens if you just come down below it, break, and then do a reclaim? Well, that's just a failed breakdown. It's perfect. I'd love to get stopped out and then take another shot at it after it's washed everybody out. So when does the chart break? Well, when you start getting underneath these people. Think of the justice scale. You've got a lot of weight up here. Where is that going to push you towards? Well, you've got a little bit of a hiccup here. But this is your next, multi-day support. Right here. Now, if we do not come down, like what's happened is we've created a lower low, and we still didn't come into this level, and we're trying to break back up. What does that mean? That means there's a lot of buying going on because we didn't even have the power to do the if-then statement of what should have happened when this broke down. Right? The chart's already broken down twice, and we're not coming to the next zone. That's a big deal. So if we can't get to the next zone to the downside, and we start breaking above the zone here to the upside, that's pretty bullish. Does that make sense? Give me just one sec to check my positions. Okay, so here, let's do this right here, right now on the SPY. Yeah, Fog, I am recording. So again, if we were to go back and look at this entire zone, right? This is a great spot to short, in my opinion, right? You're coming into the main for this entire zone. Now, is it the entire zone for recently? Well, let's look. Still pretty good, right? I have to take out these areas from back here. How strong is that zone? It's not strong at all. That makes sense. That zone's gone. So what does that mean? Well, that means these people are the ones that are creating this zone. All right. Have they had a chance to take profits and or stop out? Yeah, they have. Look, bam, bam. So what are the odds of getting through this? Well, it's a lot higher than it is getting through the more recent people. So what I would do is I would say, you know what? Let's use this level. Right? So start putting in a short here at 523. But this chart doesn't, the short, you don't get over this main level until when? Well, really about 526.30. Well, why not here? Great. If that's what you want to do, use 528. That's even more true. Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, That's fine. But what you have to do as a trader is you have to be able to draw the line somewhere and say this is my risk. Like this is it. I can't take any more loss. And where am I comfortable? Am I comfortable going from 524 to 528, or do I want a tighter? Maybe I only want to start at 526, 527. These orange lines are the day of Trump's big tweet, or whatever day he tweeted said it's a good time to buy. So you would have to say, where can I buy and or short within this zone where I'm comfortable using this as my risk level? And if you miss it, you miss it. If you hit it, you hit it. The tighter you get, the more likely you are to miss it. So if you're like, you know what, I'm going to start in at 526.50, and then I'll stop out at 528.50. That gives me a $2 range. You buy it 3 times, you do it here, here, and here, great. But if you do, you can also do it here, and then do it here, and you're going to have a very similar cost basis, and you widen the net, so you don't have to be as good at finding the exact levels. Does that make sense? So if the SPY does come up into this 525 range, right? I think it's our obligation to take a put position in the market like today. Now, if there's news that comes out, it's going to get destroyed. You're going to lose all of your money on it. But I think in this market you have to short pops until proven wrong. Oh, thank you. Sorry, guys. I got to do that all over again. All right, let me do this again. Sorry, I was not watching chat. All right, let's repeat. This VP is being created by these guys over here. So if we take that away, that VP is gone, right? Everybody see that? So it's there, it's not. So we know that these people have had the chance to get in and out, right? We've gone above and below. So yeah, it's important, but it's not as important as the people that haven't had a chance to get out, which is these people, right? And so if you wanted to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to short and risk this top level at 528.62, sure, great, that's fine. If you want to say, you know what? If we get over this big area, which is a huge, huge point of control area, I want to stop out there, great, that's fine. But the short doesn't break until you get through this level, because this is your value area high of this zone. Now, if you were to look at a zone within a zone, like if I were to zoom into this, right, this is going to be your bigger level. And so saying this is my stop, that's fine. You're over the main point within this particular zone. And you wanted to risk it off that level, there's no wrong way to do it as long as you're controlling the risk. But what I would tell you is, if you're not great at finding the exact spot, I'd want to widen that net. So take a short here into this 525-ish area, 524.50-ish area. Take another short here at 526.80, then another one at 528. Great. A $5 move on the markets is not a lot for this volatility. So that's fine. But it's also fine if you said, I'm going to take a shot at 523.46, 524.52, and then 525.90, right? Great. That's fine too. But understand that for me to get long, right, to get long bias on this, I need to get over the most recent VP peeps. Where is that? That's from here. Here, I'll change the color. Here. Let's zoom in and really get this down. So there and there, right? That's when you get over it. So if I'm like, well, shoot, I want to create zones within a zone, right? So we know this purple is a zone. let's create a zone within that zone. Ultimately, what we'd have to do is get as tight as possible. I can do it on 2 minute, and I would say, all right, do. So now you can see it's like, all right, well, the low's literally about right here. There's you a zone within the zone, right? And then you've got another zone within this zone right here. So, right, we had that purple zone, understanding that we got to get through these people. And if you're like, you know what, I'm going to short risking this bottom zone, and I'm going to stop out if we get above it. Great. I'm going to use this top zone. Great. There's nothing wrong with it. But for a long, for this to flip and have this be support, what do we have to do? We got to get above this last purple number. That's it. So for me to get long, I would need to be more long biased. I would need this to get hit and prove that we've stopped, or anybody that wanted to get out has gotten out. That way, if we start flagging in this area, it's like, all right, let's go. Now that everybody's gotten out, great. But if we break over this level down here, this bottom one, and you stop out, great, that's fine. You may get a failed breakout. It does something like this, and your levels are now a head and shoulders with the bottom area being the neckline, right? That's a great short setup. Does this make sense, guys? Does that answer your question, Paul? Okay, I'm going to stop this recording.